when it comes to categories for the esteemed Grammys, a lot of us from the outside looking in often scratch our heads. We're wondering how certain people ended up in certain categories. And of course, this year is no different. This time it's the Best New Artist category that has some folks asking, wait a minute, right? So just so that people know, the Best New Artist category this year includes Benson Boone, Sabrina Carpenter, Doechii, Chappell Rowan, Shabuzi, Teddy Swims, just to name a few. And for those in the music scene, right, music lovers, they're like, well, wait, I've heard music from them before 2024. Like they've been putting out, Sabrina Carpenter's been putting out music for a few years. Benson Boone had 3 EPs already. So the question is, make this make sense for us, Professor Bennett, because I know people are like, how were they new? How does this make sense?
Well, right. What exactly makes a new artist? Well, being something of a pop historian, I went into the history and I was really interested. Where did this start? How new was a new artist when this began? And it began all the way back in 1960 with Bobby Darin as the first ever awardee in that category. But he'd had a record out about a year before, so he was still kind of new in the Grammys cycle. But they applied the rules for decades really quite strictly. One of the early controversies in the 80s was Whitney Houston was excluded. She was disqualified, even though she also had an album out just in the past year, in 86, when she was nominated. But she was disqualified just because she had a duet previously with Jermaine Jackson and Teddy Pendergrass, and that was enough to disqualify her from being the best new artist. And then they started to soften up a little at around 2010 because we had Lady Gaga on the famous 2010 rule change. So Gaga was excluded in 2010 from the Best New Artist category because her single had been nominated, just nominated the year before, a single Just Dance. And there was a huge backlash because obviously Gaga was so huge by then in 2010 from the fans and music lovers everywhere. And they started softening the rules. So now I believe the criteria is it's someone who comes to prominence in the year of nomination. And that really allows all comers, anyone can have as long a run up to their Best New Artist nomination as they like. I do think two of the nominees this year, Sabrina Carpenter and Kruang Bin, are actually sort of outliers because I think Sabrina Carpenter is on her 6th album. Mm-hmm. And she's been doing this for a long time, plus TV work, and she's a really well-established artist with a fantastic body of work behind her already, and she's only in her mid-20s. So I think the Grammys are sort of, rightly in my view, bowing to public opinion. But I'll confess, even as a pop scholar, Sabrina Carpenter wasn't heavily on my radar in the early 2020s. And obviously, we've just had the summer of espresso. So everybody is talking about Sabrina Carpenter and that fantastic 6th album.
Now talk to us about what factors that you think helped to shift this category a little bit, help change what that category looks like.
Yeah, I think it's mainly down to public opinion because what does it mean to break through in 2024 or 2025? It's kind of a different thing. Obviously the Grammys have been around long before social media, and there isn't any artist today that doesn't blow up with social media being at least a factor. And of course, in any investigation of anything in the music industry, one has to talk about the Taylor Swift effect. So Carpenter was the opener for the Eras tour, and that obviously introduced her to even more fans, and she literally went global with that. And I think despite quite a lot of very respectable success until that point, it was the Eras tour participation that really put Sabrina Carpenter into the public imagination.
And was there anything else you think is important for viewers to consider as they look at who is in this category, other categories, anything else that can help equip them for viewing on February 2nd when they watch the Grammys?
Well, I think maybe it's just to say that awards are important and it's fantastic to win a Grammy, but there are some fantastic nominations every year. And this year is no exception. 2025 is, you just read out the field there. It's just a wonderful array of really quite varied music. So for every generation that says pop is dead, it's not like it was in the old times, I absolutely do not agree. I think popular music is healthier than it's ever been.